you won't believe the crazy story that just unfolded in my life. So here's the deal. My wife Anna cheated on me with some dude. Can you believe the audacity? It's the worst kind of betrayal you can imagine, bro. I am a 32 years old guy, just trying to make it in this crazy world. Let me take you back about 6 years ago when I first met Anna. She was working as a waitress in this cozy little restaurant called the Corner Cafe, and I was doing pretty well as a salesman in marketing. I had a good gig that was paying me nicely, you know. I used to strut into that place with my sharp, sweet, and flashy smile, and there was she, serving tables with her infectious laughter and those mesmerizing blue eyes. It was like a scene straight out of a romantic movie, man. Anyways, I fell head over heels for Anna. We started hanging out together, grabbing coffee after her shifts and going on long walks in the park. Before we knew it, we were inseparable. We'd spend hours talking about our dreams, our fears, and everything in between. After dating for about 6 months, we decided to tie the knot and get married. It was a small, intimate ceremony with our closest friends and family, and I could not have been happier, bro. Life was going pretty smoothly for us, nothing out of the ordinary. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but we were in love and that's all that mattered. I always busted my butt to fulfill Anna's dreams and desires, man. I'd surprise her with little gifts, take her out on fancy dates, and support her in every way I could. But no matter what I did, she could sometimes criticize me for not making enough money for her extravagant tastes. It's crazy, right? I mean, she knew what she was getting into before we got hitched. But ever since we said our vows, she changed. It's only been 3 months and she already quit her job, expecting me to foot all the bills. I am constantly trying to find new ways to make money, taking on extra shifts and exploring side hustles, and she's doing her best too. I'll give her that. She's got big dreams, you know. She wants to travel the world, live in a luxurious penthouse, and have all the finer things in life. I guess we both got caught up in the whirlwind of our aspirations. That's where our neighbor Steve comes into the picture. He is this cool, laid-back dude with a knack of thinking outside the box. He paid us a visit one day, sipping on his favorite craft beer and suggesting something wild. He told us to start buying lottery tickets. He thought that could be our ticket to the riches, our way out of this financial struggle. It sounded crazy, but desperate times call for desperate measures, right? We figured, why not give it a shot? So now every week we eagerly await the lottery draw, hoping that luck will finally shine upon us and change our lives forever. It's a long shot, but hey, you never know what could happen, right? So get this, his sister-in-law just won a whopping $2 million from the lottery. My wife was over the moon when she heard the news, but honestly, I could not believe it. I thought it was just a waste of time and probably some fake news. But my wife was so excited about it, she even tried to convince me to buy some lottery tickets. A few days later, I came home and guess who's there? Steve, chilling in my living room with my wife. And you know what they were talking about? Guess it, the lottery tickets. I could not help but laugh and tease my wife about still being stuck in her fantasy of winning the lottery. Well, let's just say that she did not take it lightly and got pretty angry with me. But here's the thing, Steve was also fully convinced that my wife could actually win the lottery. They were like a dynamic duo on a mission to strike it rich. I never really thought that anything negative about their friendship since they always hung out in my presence. Little did I know what they were actually up to. With their newfound confidence from the recent lottery win, my wife and Steve started researching different strategies and statistics to increase their chances of winning. They even joined online lottery communities and attended seminars to learn from experienced winners. Their dedication and determination were unmatched as they spent hours discussing numbers, analyzing previous winning patterns, and devising their own unique approach to playing the lottery. It seemed like every spare moment they had was dedicated to their pursuit of the jackpot. Steve even used to be our neighbor, living with his parents, and for the longest time I had no negative feelings towards him. He seemed like an ordinary guy, leading an unremarkable life, but little did I know that everything was about to change. It was a regular Monday, and I wasn't feeling well, so I decided to skip work and stay home. The day started off like any other, with the sun shining brightly and the birds chirping in the distance. Around 11 o'clock, just as I was starting to drift off to sleep, the doorbell rang. The sound echoed through the house, sending a shiver down my spine. Curiosity got the better of me, and I reluctantly dragged myself out of the bed to see who it was. To my surprise, it was Steve standing there, his face obscured by a shadow cast by the bag he held tightly in his hand. The sight of him sent a chill down my spine, and I couldn't help but wonder what he was doing here at such an hour. I mustered up the courage to inquire about his unexpected visit and reason for his presence. His response was cryptic, his voice laced. He simply said that he dropped by to see me, but there was something off about him. His eyes darted around my house as if he was searching for someone or something. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, and a sense of unease washed over me. As the minutes ticked by, Steve's behavior only grew more peculiar. He did not ask about Anna, my partner, even though she was usually the first person he inquired about. It was as if he knew something I didn't, something sinister lurking. I could not shake the feeling that there was more to his visit than meets the eye. Feeling drained from my illness, I decided to retreat back to bed, hoping that Steve would take the hint and leave. But as I lay there, my mind racing with unanswered questions, I could not shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. What was Steve hiding, and why did he seem so interested in my house? After what felt like an eternity, I found Anna in the living room, getting ready to leave. Her voice was filled with concern as she was asked by me where she was heading. According to her, she was going to meet her friend. But as I looked into her eyes, I could not help but wonder if she was really meeting a friend. Was she involved in whatever was happening? And more importantly, could I trust her? The air was thick with suspense as I contemplated these unsettling thoughts. Little did I know that the events of that day were just the beginning of a twisted journey into the unknown, where trust would be shattered and the true nature of those around me would be revealed. Reluctantly, I assured her that I did not require anything and insisted that I was perfectly fine. My curiosity got the better of me, and I couldn't help but inquire about her return time. However, her response was evasive, leaving me with a sense of unease. Hours later in the afternoon, she unexpectedly reappeared. I reached out to her through a message, seeking clarification, only to be met with the promise of her arrival later that night. Suppressing my mounting concerns, I simply replied, "All right, it's fine." Restless and weary of monotony at the home, I yearned for a change of scenery. The idea of indulging in a cup of coffee or engaging in some other activity outside the confines of my dwelling enticed me. Determined to break free from the mundane, I dialed up one of my friends, pestering them to pick me up so we could relish a delightful coffee outdoor together. There was a quaint restaurant situated a considerable distance away from the bustling city, and that's where we decided to venture. To my astonishment, upon our arrival, my eyes beheld the sight that sent shivers down the spine. There, seated at the table, was my wife, accompanied by none than Steve. The shock of this unexpected encounter left me speechless, for she had never mentioned anything about Steve at that particular restaurant. As I cautiously approached them, my co-entrants transformed. betraying a mix of confusion and hurt. Her expressions mirrored my own, a blend of surprise and guilt, while Steve's face contoured with fear, as if caught in the act of something forbidden. I was like, "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" My voice trembled with a mix of confusion and suspicion as I scanned the room. The air grew heavy with an unspoken tension, and my heart pounded in my chest. When I looked at Steve, his eyes met mine, but his face remained a blank canvas, devoid of any emotion. It was as if he was hiding something, struggling to find the right words to say. Then, out of nowhere, my wife Anna chimed in, her voice laced with an unusual calmness. She revealed that Steve had come over to see her, a revelation that sent shockwaves through my already troubled mind. My brows frowned and my eyes widened in disbelief. "Wait," I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. "I thought you were meeting a friend, not Steve." A flicker of guilt danced across Anna's face, but she quickly composed herself. "Well," she began, her voice tinged with a hint of defensiveness. "Her friend bailed on her, so I just happened to be here and decided to drop by." Her words hung in the air, leaving me with a bitter taste of suspicion. Just as the tension threatened to suffocate us all, Steve's phone pierced through the silence, shattering the fragile equilibrium. He excused himself, claiming he had to leave home. It was an abrupt departure, leaving me with a lingering sense of unease. Something did not add up, and I could not shake the feeling that there was more to this encounter than met the eye. With my friend by my side, we made a decision to accompany Steve and Anna back to our place. The car ride was filled with forced conversation, each word carrying an undercurrent of uncertainty. We tried to discuss everything that had transpired, attempting to unravel the tangled web of secrets that seemed to surround us. Seemingly, everything appeared fine on the surface, but deep down, my doubts continued to gnaw at me. The events of the evening had left an indelible mark on my psyche, and I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that there was more to the story. Yet, in that moment, I made a conscious choice to bury my suspicions, to push them aside and pretend that everything was normal. Little did I know that this decision would plunge me into a world of uncertainty and deception, where the truth would reveal itself in the most unexpected and devastating ways. So, it was a few days later when I finally got back home at late night after having an absolutely incredible time at this mind-blowing party with my closest buddies. And let me tell you, it was an experience to remember, but as fate would have it, upon returning to my humble abode, I could not help but notice something rather peculiar and suspicious lurking within the confines of my living space once again. In my slightly hazy state, a result of the unforgettable night I had just experienced, I stumbled into my room and, to my surprise, caught sight of a pair of sneakers resting near my bed. Now you have to understand, my mind was still feeling the excitement of the party, and exhaustion had taken its toll on my senses. So without giving it much thought, I simply shrugged off the oddity and decided to call it a night, collapsing onto my bed in a heap. The next morning, I slowly emerged from the slumber and made my way towards the bathroom. It was in that moment that a wave of realization washed over me like a sudden jolt of electricity. The memory of those sneakers resurfaced, and it became abundantly clear that they did not belong to me or my beloved wife. Naturally, curiosity and a touch of concern began to gnaw at my mind. With a mix of anticipation and trepidation, I approached my wife, eager to unravel the mystery that had unfolded within the confines of our home. I mustered up the courage to inquire about the sneakers, hoping for a logical explanation. However, to my surprise, my wife vehemently denied their existence as if they were mere figment of my imagination. I could not help but feel a sense of frustration and confusion, as I knew deep down that I had distinctly seen those kicks with my own eyes. In an attempt to bridge the gap between our perspectives, I pleaded with my wife, saying, "Come on, babe, I vividly recall the sight of those sneakers. They were right there in our room. Yet despite the earnest plea, she remained steadfast in her denial, leaving me to grapple with the enigma that had unfolded before me. The unanswered questions lingered in the air, leaving me to wonder to whom those sneakers belonged to and what secrets they held within their souls. I was totally convinced that something fishy was going on behind my back. After a few days, when I came home from work, she wasn't there. I called her to ask where she was, but her phone was ringing in the bedroom. That struck me as odd because she never leaves her phone laying around. I went to the bedroom and found her phone. I had no clue where she was, so I checked her cell phone. Within minutes, I received messages from a new number saying, "I miss you and I want to meet with you." My heart sank and I realized that she was cheating on me. Luckily, I knew the pin of her phone, so I unlocked it and started scrolling through WhatsApp. I read all the messages she had with this person, and within seconds, I discovered that the guy she was cheating with was named Steve. They were not just messaging each other, but also sending voice messages. I listened to a few of them. My wife Anna was having an intimate relationship with Steve for the past month. It was a devastating situation, but I managed to keep my emotions in check. In one of the audio messages, I heard her voice and Steve planning to start a new life together after winning the lottery ticket, telling him that Anna was not happy with me and wanted to start afresh with him. It was a moment of truth when I saw her true, cruel face. Sometime later, she came home in a panic, claiming that she had forgotten her cell phone at home. I handed myself over, but I did not say anything because I was trying to assess the whole situation I was in. So I left my house and went to a nearby park to think for 2 hours about what to do. I had to trap them both to get revenge because they betrayed me just for money. I meticulously planned everything. I went to a place where I could get the tickets and somehow managed to convince a man to create a fake lottery ticket for my wife. I gave him some money for this act, fully aware that she would come to buy a new ticket. After waiting for 5 days, she went to claim the ticket, and the man gave her the fake one as we had planned. Now she had to wait for 2 more days for the lottery ticket numbers to be announced. After 2 days, when she received the news that the ticket number matched hers, she was ecstatic. Little did she know it was all part of my scheme. After winning the ticket, her attitude towards me changed. She wanted to get a divorce. I burst into laughter in front of her, laughing uncontrollably. She asked me if I was joking about the divorce, but I told her I wasn't joking and that I really wanted to divorce her. When she realized I was serious, she was deeply embarrassed and broke into tears. I ordered her to gather her belongings and leave my house. She begged and tried to convince me otherwise, but I had made up my mind. I kicked her out of the house. Finally, after a few days, I divorced her. I could not bear to face Steve, so I decided to move to a new home.